Welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here on the west coast of Canada. I hope everybody is having a great day so far. Looking forward to a fantastic weekend, or you're maybe already having your weekend depending on where you are. Welcome Jainil. Hi Bakrat. Good to see our members. Welcome Sumit. Shukpreet Kaur. Good to see many students joining in. In this class, students, we are looking at task 2 writing, and we're finishing our essay for a band 9 that we started in the last class. If you weren't here for that, don't worry. We'll go through the question and the introduction at the beginning before writing the body paragraphs and the conclusion. This lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Visit us there. For the general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. On both of those websites, we have lots of help to improve your writing, get higher band scores. And while we wait for a few more students, I'll quickly show you what these look like. This is our academic IELTS website here. You can click that big red button to join our premium package. It is a one-time payment for lifetime access. We are a certified British Council IELTS Registration Center and British Council agents. And for the general IELTS, same idea, green background. You can click that big red button to join our premium package there. We have apps, Academic IELTS Help, General IELTS Help in your app store. And of course, you can follow us on Instagram, IELTS_AE Help and GIELTS Help. We've got lots of goodies there for you. And if you have a question, just shoot me an email, adrian@aehelp.com. Okay. So Sumit, the package is lifetime membership. To become a member of YouTube, you have to click the join button beside the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Okay. All right, everyone. Let's get into this. So we've got a couple more classes tomorrow as well. Make sure you hang around for those tomorrow. Here we go. This was the question that we started in yesterday's class. So let's just read this question, especially for those of you who weren't with us yesterday. This is the question we're working on today. IELTS Task 2 Writing. You should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Many people believe the world is in need of a global government that can regulate universal tax, healthcare, and security. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages of this and give your own opinion. Okay, so we did a lot of planning yesterday, and we ended up with a good introduction to start our essay. Here is the introductory paragraph, okay? Over the last 2 decades, there has been an increasing demand for a global government, a single unified authority that can be responsible for the critical social systems such as medical care, tax laws, and safety legislature, may better operate an ever-growing international community. Although a major disadvantage of a unified government is loss of autonomy for nations, its benefits include a greater degree of social equality, public safety, and general health. For these reasons, I'm in support of this idea. So this right here is my thesis. My thesis outlines the body paragraphs. So here, I'm going to write 3 body paragraphs, okay? The first one will be about the disadvantage of a unified government because of loss of autonomy. Autonomy means an inability to make decisions for oneself, okay? So depending on others or being forced into situations by others. Okay, the benefits, that will be the next body paragraph: social equality, public safety, general health, and then a short paragraph of why I'm in support of this. So that's what we're going to be working on for this. All right, so let's get into our first body paragraph. Now, body paragraphs should always start with a topic sentence, And the topic sentence comes from your first thesis point. Okay, so we're going to do this together. So the first sentence is about the disadvantage of loss of autonomy. Let's start with that. Now we have to keep in mind that we're aiming to write around 300, maybe 320, 30 words for this essay. Okay. All right. So body one, topic sentence. So what you want to do is paraphrase with detail the first point. In this case, loss of autonomy is a disadvantage. Okay, so that's what we want to focus on for this first sentence. All right, and I want to spend this class writing with you and giving you feedback. So I'm going to give you instructions as we move along, but we're going to move nice and smoothly through this essay. So go ahead and write a sentence that lets your reader know what you mean about the disadvantage of a unified global government being the loss of autonomy. Okay, I'm going to do the same. I'll let you think for a moment while I write, and then we'll compare. Okay, so here we go. All right. So this is my sentence. Now, when you're writing the sentence, try to be quick, try to be fluent, okay? It is important that you're not thinking for too long or you're not worrying too much about mistakes. Otherwise, you will lose too much time. I will correct mistakes that I see, so don't worry about that. Rajveer says nations may be unable to make decisions on their political, social, religious, and economic aspects when they're controlled by a global authority. Very good, Rajveer. Yeah. So this is what I wrote. One of the clear deficits of having a single authority managing all countries is that nations and cultures lose their ability to make critical decisions for themselves. Yeah, and then in my explanation, Rajveer, I'm going to go into some of the details that you mentioned, but I like what you wrote, so it's okay to include that much detail into the topic sentence because you're still in description there. Absolutely, and I think it's in some ways, Rajveer, even more concise than what I wrote here. Okay. Saga, just focus on the task at hand. Don't keep staring at the clock in the writing section and just write, okay? Stick to strategy. That's what's most important. Focus on your strategy and your thoughts instead of the time, all right? Kuldeep says, firstly, deficits considered, there is a major loss of autonomy with a single global authority. Yeah, so Kuldeep, good. You're going quickly. You have a few mistakes. You want a little bit more clarity, more description, but you're being fluent, and that's great. Shobi, whoever said paraphrasing is an old technique, sorry, I didn't mean to laugh there, but paraphrasing has been around since humans have started to communicate with each other, since we started to yell, get out of the building, it's on fire, the house is burning, you must leave. So paraphrasing is a fundamental component of human communication. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon, so it's not something that can get outdated. It's been with us since the dawn of time and probably will hang around for, well, as far as I can imagine, anyway. Okay, Viral says, unified government has many disadvantages. First, its local community might lose their voice while making important decisions. Okay, Gotti, it's a good start. Having a unified government has disadvantages. Importantly, local communities might lose their voice when making important decisions. Yeah, okay, a couple of corrections there. Manvi says the freedom of local authorities to make any decision for health and safety of the public is devastated with one international government. Yeah, okay. Jainil says, if a universal government regulates social issues for all countries, nations lose independence when making local decisions. Yeah, Janil, good. You have to put nations lose their independence because otherwise the they is confused with the universal government. So careful with your pronoun modifiers. In your sentence, it sounds like they could be the universal government and it's confusing. So careful about that. Ravi Darji says, sir, I got my IELTS results yesterday and the score was listening 7, reading 6.5, writing 6, speaking 5.5, overall 6.5. Should I apply for an EOR in the speaking module? Ravi, yeah, if you only need like half a band more, it could be a good idea. It's very difficult to get more points with the EOR. Usually people just lose their money. But if you're out of time and if you only need half a band, it might be a good idea. Especially it's kind of strange to have a speaking score that's lower than writing and reading, so it might be a good idea. Okay. Maniksha, a Band 9 introduction should be to the point, and that's why this introduction is very much to the point because it gives a very direct thesis. Okay, it tells the reader very directly the deficit, the benefit of a unified government or the need for one, and the fact that I support that there is a need. Okay, so it's a very, very direct thesis there, Maniksha. Okay. All right, so let's explain this. The next sentence is the explanation. Okay. For the explanation, use quantitative and detailed ideas to clearly explain the topic sentence. Okay, I'm going to do that now. Again, do it with me. So I'm going to type. You'll have a little bit of silence so that you can think, and then we'll compare. Okay, all right, here we go. So all right, so there's my sentence. Goti says, to explain it more, while making a plan for budget, sometimes unified governments forget to allocate budgets to important areas like free health care, gym equipment, in the government office. Okay. Rashika says, local communities are unable to make decisions on their own about economic, political, and social issues when having a unified authority. Okay, good. Akshay says one of the major disadvantages of having a single governing body globally is that countries lose their authority on local populations to make certain rules and regulations. Good. Rahul says usually local governments know their issues best and they can put forward adequate resources to resolve them, which may not be possible with global authorities making policy decisions or taking policy decisions. Okay, Rahul, that's good as well. Very nice writing, members. Kuldeep says in certain communities, many governments lose their control and have to follow protocol made by international bodies, which becomes inevitable and irrespectful. Yeah, and lose, Kuldeep, is L-O-S-E in that case. Okay, not loose, but lose. Chandradeep says, in lots of scenarios, local authorities are responsible to take decisions like building hospitals, holding cultural events and festivals, which may contradict with unified governments. Okay, good. Chandradeep, I would stop there because they will look global. I don't think we need that part. All right, very good. Pisces Lam, good luck on your exam today. All right, Samit says when one authority makes decisions regarding their national issues, those actions could be changed by a global authority, which will lead to dependence on more authority. Okay, it's not bad at all. Students, try to avoid the use of will, so try to stay in the present general tense, not in the future, so don't use the future participle will. Stay away from that, okay? All right. Manvi says a unified government for all nations is unable to understand the needs of local people from different cultures and backgrounds, and they have disregard for the demands of the general public. Okay, Manvi, good. I made a few corrections there, so pay attention to that. Rajveer says, or writes, countries are no more in position to design policies to safeguard their religious beliefs and security protocols, which are best suited to their needs when unified authorities find it challenging. Okay, Rajveer, a little bit confused, especially with the end part there, so you might want to rethink how to express that. Good luck, Akash, in your exam today as well. Jassy says, unlike local governments, unlike global governments, local governments can not only take decisions for their nation greatly, but also experience the issues of local residents precisely. Okay, however, global governments would fail in this regard. All right. Okay, good. So now let's give an example. Okay. So here, you have to kind of think of the example. We do have some global governing bodies like Interpol or WHO, but here you have to kind of imagine the situation because we don't really have a global government yet. So think about an example that could be useful in the next body paragraph as well. Now here, I'm going to take from my current context, and I think in this case, healthcare is a good example. Okay, so All right. Here is my example, and basically I'm just taking a page from current history. Okay. Although instituting a lockdown in some countries may be feasible during a pandemic, if this were forced on nations without economic stability or viral breakout, it would do more harm than good, right? And that's what we experienced in the world these days with COVID, right? Some countries basically said, hey, guys, we can't do a lockdown because if we stop our economic flow and have people stay indoors, that's going to basically bankrupt our country. And we also don't have a lot of cases of this virus. At least that's what people thought, right? Rahul says, for instance, global tax mechanism, which levies the tax on all populations of the globe, may not be feasible as countries have different incomes, spending power, savings, and development needs. Yeah, I think, Rahul, that would be another good one. It's very measurable. You could use a lot of quantitative language there with taxation, right? So global tax law might not work so well in certain countries as in others. Okay. Welcome to your first class, Kaushalya. Devi, good to have you. Okay. All right. So there is my first body paragraph. Now I'm going to read it and make sure it makes sense. Okay. So one of the clear deficits of having a single authority managing all countries is that nations and cultures lose their abilities to make critical decisions for themselves. Okay. In certain cases, local governments make decisions regarding religion, laws, and healthcare to benefit their domestic populace, which may not coincide with an international interest, and this would simply not work with a higher authority control. Although instituting a lockdown in some countries may be feasible during a pandemic, if this were forced on nations without economic stability or viral breakout, it would do more harm than good. Okay. So here I'm going to do a concluding connecting sentence. Okay. For such reasons, it may not be ideal to have one international government. Okay, good. I'm happy with that paragraph. Now I can move on to my next body paragraph. I see a couple more good examples there. Let's move it along. Let's really get into this essay. So now I'm going to write another paragraph about the advantages of having a unified single government. Now, this is the side that I support, so I want to do a really good job arguing this side of this idea. Okay. All right. So again, first sentence is topic sentence. Okay. And again, I want to go into more detail than my thesis. Whenever you're writing your topic sentence of your body paragraph, it's a good idea to look back at your thesis statement and check what you wrote there, so you don't just simply repeat your thesis, but you actually do give more detail. And also to make sure that you're in line with your thesis, so you're not giving new ideas that you didn't mention in the beginning. Okay. All right, so here the benefits include a greater degree of social equality, public safety, and general health. All right, so we've got lots of detail there, so we're going to have to go into even greater detail in this sentence, okay? In this topic sentence of body paragraph 2. So write this this topic sentence. I'm going to do the same again, just as with the first paragraph. We're going to move along nice and smoothly. Get these sentences out there. Again, don't worry too much about mistakes. Okay. The reason, Akshay, that we're having disadvantages in the first body paragraph and the advantages in the second is because I'm writing the essay where my opinion is supporting the advantages. So because I support the advantages, I want to have a good connection there with my own opinion that comes after this paragraph. Okay. All right. So here we go. All right. So here I'm kind of amalgamating those components of healthcare laws and securities. Okay. And I'm going to explain this sentence. So it's kind of like I'm moving backwards, but also giving more detail at the same time. All right. Rahul says a global government may use better technology and manpower as they have expert resources from all over the world which can address issues of health, safety, and security. Rahul, that's a very clever sentence. Yeah. So there's basically greater resources available to an international government that are not available locally, which could possibly help to solve issues better for people. Yeah, I agree, right? It's a good idea. Mandeep Singh says having a global government can bring similar rules and regulations for every person living in this world, which can discard religious and culturally based decisions that might not be for the benefit of the people. Yeah, Mandeep, okay, that's a good argument as well, and I like where you're going with it, so it's good. Gauti says to turn towards the pros of a single authority, comma, people can have equal pay rates all over the world despite different currencies. As well, there are lower chances of conflict among nations. Yeah, I like that. Okay, I actually like some of your responses better than what I wrote. So good job, right? Summit says nowadays millions of people move from one nation to another, so it is good to make a global authority to provide proper service for everyone, regardless of their residence. Yeah, very good, Summit. That was also a very good idea. Kaldeep says, nonetheless, having a single governing branch to control certain domains leads to a safer environment and greater prosperity for all nations. Yeah, or for the majority of the people, right? There's kind of that saying that you can't make everybody happy. But of course, if we have one single government, we might make more people happy internationally than if we have just local authorities. That's a very smart idea as well, Kuldeep, and it's a good start, all right? Jassy says, having a global government as a whole could bring plenty of benefits. Firstly, this endeavor may assist individuals to unite without any prejudice and to enhance their overall quality of health and life. Very good, Jassy. Okay, I made some corrections there as well, but I think that's a fantastic idea. So your writing may not be perfect with word choice and grammar, but your ideas are great and you're down the right direction. Okay. Rajveer says the upsides of having a unified authority are that it resolves many conflicts in trade and safety protocol, thereby providing equitable access to healthcare and business. Very nice, Rajveer. Very nice topic sentence. Great. I almost want to take some of your topic sentences and put them there instead of mine. I'm not as sharp today as I'd like to be. Manvi says, a single government has greater power to assist all nations in the form of financial support and health services, as they have strong management and technology to implement the best laws. Very good, Manvi. Very good. Okay, a few corrections there. All right. Nicely done. Chandradeep says, one of the good sides of a unified government may be a single point of contact for problems rather than looking for different options. Yeah, Chandradeep, you remind me of an interesting collocation. It's called diffusion of responsibility. Diffusion of responsibility means that basically there are so many people, or in this case countries, that we think should be responsible that nobody knows who is responsible in the end. It happens in business as well. Okay. All right. Nicely done. Some nice topic sentences there. I think a lot of those are really great. Okay. All right. So now comes the explanation. Right? So what do we mean by this? So here, in a world where many people are citizens of multiple countries and where there is great interdependence among nations, it is logical to have a single governing body to ensure the basic social needs of all people. So what do we mean by this, right? Okay. So all right. So this explanation is kind of coming from the planning that we did yesterday. So for those of you who were in yesterday's class and saw the planning, I'm sure that you remember some of these points that we discussed. Okay, so with one governing body, critical issues like global terrorism, viral pandemics, and tax evasion can be better controlled in order to create prosperity and safety for the majority of Earth's citizens. Okay, so now I want an example. Before I write the example, let's see some explanations, everyone. So we're moving along nicely, and I have a bit of time to give you some feedback. All right. Mandeep Singh says millions of individuals around the world would definitely get equal job opportunities and similar healthcare services regardless of their religious backgrounds with a single global government. Okay, Mandeep, yeah, definitely down the right path. Jassy says, with the single governing authority, certain world-level environmental degradation issues can be solved better, such as global warming. Yeah, Jesse, so it's good. I would actually go into a little bit more detail without necessarily going into an example, but a bit more detail. Rashika says, having one single authority, comma, people have the opportunity to receive the same facilities such as health, business, and this would create optimism around the world. Okay, Rashika, good. I think you're also in the right direction. Kuldeep says, The concerned authorities may work in an effective way while avoiding critical issues like terrorism and health problems. Yeah, and if Kuldeep, maybe go into what kind of health problems, like pandemics or cure for cancer, right? Something that we might better solve if we join together and there's a single authority, right? Classic says, with a single government, currency exchange could be eliminated and there would be better utilization of money. Yeah, that's definitely a good argument. Classic, create a full sentence for that, okay? Yeah, I'm on Vancouver Island on Me Loving, and it's okay for the most part, but we also have, I think, the same issues that everybody else does. Nico says, under a single governance, decision makers will incident around the world policies such as disease control, tackling global warming, and abolishing terrorism, which affect human life negatively. Okay, Nico, good ideas. I made some corrections there. Take notes of that. You had some missing words and some awkward grammar, but otherwise a good list of ideas. Chandradeep says a unified government can provide wonderful benefits for fixing climate change, inadequate health care, transference of technology, and provide manpower to tackle issues happening around the other issues happening around the world. Yeah. Rajveer says a single governing body formulates taxation to collect tariffs from giant businesses, which usually evade them due to weak taxation policies in some developing nations. Yeah, Rajveer, good. So you're going down the taxation route. And I think money is a very quantifiable and a great example. So if I weren't using the pandemic in the previous paragraph, that would be my second choice, or equally good choice for sure. Absolutely. I think that's a big one. All right. Okay, great. So let's have an example. All right. All right. Here I think is a striking example with some quantitative information as well. So even though a nation may avoid a pandemic momentarily, they likely do not have the necessary resources, like millions of vaccines, which could be provided by a global authority should this need arise. And that's a little bit brutal because that's what the world is experiencing right now, right? So some nations aren't able to purchase or produce vaccines for their populace, and even though they avoided the pandemic at the beginning, now they could be in a much more difficult position. And if we had a single government and this government established factories to produce vaccines around the world and shared the information equally to all citizens around the world, we wouldn't have this situation, right? So that's an example here. Thanks, Charmin. I appreciate your comment. All right. Rahul says, for instance, the vaccine production against the pandemic has been at a very fast pace and at a cheaper cost as all hands of the world have joined to fight it as a single mission. Okay, good, Rahul. So you're taking a different approach. You're arguing that there is like a global production of vaccines, which unfortunately, as far as I know, isn't the case. But on the IELTS, Rahul, it doesn't matter because that example would work just as well. So the IELTS examiner is not after the truth, they're after good logic. And your logic is good, even though it might not be the truth. Okay? Janil says, in relation to my previous example, the spread of coronavirus, WHO has taken a decision that every person must wear a medical mask and socially distance to safeguard the entire world as well as the economy. Okay, Daniel, good. So instead of the vaccines, you took the mask approach. Yeah, I mean, we have lots of examples here now with this situation, right? Because the spread of the virus, the controlling of the virus, the vaccination of the virus, arguably could have all been managed much, much better had we had a single global authority that would be aware of these kinds of situations. Okay. Very good. All right. Agram says a single government might import vaccines from other countries based on their relations with those countries, but the WHO has already granted to produce vaccines in bulk amounts. Okay, good, good. So a lot of you picked up on that example. Yeah, it's a hot topic. So Rajveer says, although every nation is playing its role in curbing the devastating impacts of COVID-19, the World Health Organization has created a COVAX program to provide equitable access to vaccines for economically weaker nations. Very good. Very, very good, because the World Health Organization is, in some ways, an international governing authority on health. And I'm sure that going into future years, we're going to see a much greater degree of authority granted to the WHO. And instead of having just a couple of small buildings here and there, I'm sure they're going to have much bigger organization and manpower in the future. Okay. Gotti, even with some emojis. For instance, international problems can be solved by combining efforts easier. The problem like unequal taxation and health problems like COVID-19. Okay, good. Yeah. All right. So now I can have a connecting, concluding sentence here. All right. So certainly there are distinct reasons for, certainly these are is even better. Are distinct reasons for needing a global government. Okay, good. So we have that now summed up. All right, let's go to the next paragraph, which is my opinion. Okay. Now, here, if I were sitting the IELTS exam, I would do kind of a time check. And also, I would check to see how many words I have. If I'm in the computer-based exam, that's very, very easy because, yeah, so I have roughly about 300 words so far. So at this point, I would probably opt to not write a single or separate paragraph for my opinion, but I would just use the conclusion to include my opinion and save some time to review my essay once more just to make sure that I haven't made any big mistakes. You do not need to write a 5-paragraph essay for the IELTS. It's enough to write 4. It's more important to write an accurate essay. So in this case, I'm going to make a decision in my IELTS exam to not write a third body paragraph and go into more explanation about my opinion. Rather, I'm going to conclude what I'm writing because I'll end up with roughly about 330, 40 words. And then I'm going to include my opinion in that conclusion. Okay. Saga, good question. So Saga is saying, well, how can I check my time on the paper-based exam? So Saga, in the paper-based exam, in the IELTS, you always have some big clocks in the IELTS room. That's their procedure. They have to have a clock visible to every candidate. If they don't, that's a fault of the exam center, but it's unusual. So there should be a clock on the wall and you should see it. So look at that clock when you start the writing section. They will mention the time as well. And they will also say there's 10 minutes left in the writing section. Okay. They'll even tell you this. So it's a good question, Saga. They'll say, now there's 10 minutes remaining in the writing section. No one may leave at this point to go to the washroom. So they'll even remind you that in the last 10 minutes of the writing section, you cannot leave the exam room to go to the washroom. And so you know you have about 10 minutes left. To check your word count, Saga, and you should do this at home with practice sheets, official practice sheets with the IELTS. What you should do is you should count how many words you have in like 4 or 5 sentences, and then get an average, and then count your total number of sentences or rows, sorry, I should say lines, and then you can get a pretty good idea of how many words you have, okay? So count an average for 3-4 lines, and then count your total number of lines, do a simple multiplication, and then you know how many words you have as well, okay? You have to reach that minimum 250 word count, okay? So in conclusion, all right. Now, your conclusion generally has 3 parts. It has your main points restated. It has your argument strengthened. That's where I'm going to include my own opinion. And then a take-home message. And that's probably another place where I will include my opinion at this point. So let's do that. Let's go one step at a time. So my main points restated. So in conclusion, okay. So using more quantitative language, using some stronger language here as well. So in conclusion, many people consider themselves to be not just national, but global citizens as well. And the need of an international government is best suited to ensure equality for the health and well-being of all 8 billion of Earth's citizens. Now, it is task 2, so I should be writing words instead of numbers for 0 to 10. So let me make that correction there. All right, and then now I'm going to strengthen my argument, and I'm going to read what you're writing. Okay, so let's strengthen that opinion and position next. All right, Jassy writes, in conclusion, a single governing authority contains both advantages and disadvantages. The obvious drawbacks is the decline of local customs and values, of individual nations, while the positives are that people can have solidity. Okay, good. Yeah, nice use of the word solidity. Yeah, very good. Stability, right? Greater global stability. Chandradeep says, in conclusion, most people look for a unified government instead of local governments as they provide more benefits around the world, learning from historic global mistakes. All right, Chandradeep, that's kind of introducing a new idea, the historically noticeable global mistakes, so learning from the past. I wouldn't recommend introducing a new idea like that in your conclusion because you have no explanation for that in the other parts of the essay, so it's a little bit confusing. Okay. Classic says, after weighing all the aspects, the notion, along with the pros and cons, and in light of the evidence, it is crystal clear that having a global government is beneficial. Okay, yeah, classic, good. Don't refer to the essay. Students, I know many people do that, like they'll say this essay will discuss, or as I've written in this essay, or as it has been written. That's actually really odd in most writing, okay? And most professors in universities and colleges really don't like that kind of writing because it's to be perfectly blunt, it's kind of weird to refer to the essay itself. The essay is the conversation. We don't talk about the essay itself. I hope that kind of makes sense, okay? I personally definitely don't like that kind of reference because it's awkward, okay? All right, Sumit says, in conclusion, the deficits of one authority are lack of control in a nation, while the benefits of one government are more value for the global population. So it's a positive to have a single power. Okay. Rajveer says, in conclusion, having a central governing body has many benefits and few drawbacks as it provides equal access to healthcare, tax, and safety protocols. Good, nice paraphrasing. Whereas countries lose their ability to make their own decisions. All right. So all right, so this is what I wrote. So, although nations stand to lose their cultural identities under a central governing body, I believe it is of greater interest to not only safeguard all human life in the best possible way, but also to work towards a peaceful and harmonious future. And this is my take home message. Okay. In my opinion, this is best done by a global government that can make laws which take into consideration the interest of all of the world's citizens. Okay, so that is my take-home message, right? So having a government that's not just thinking of its own population and how it can get one step ahead of another country, but thinking about all people. And I think, that's maybe where the world is going in the future with globalization, provided we we live that long and see that future evolve. By the way, I'm not sure if this has a lot of meaning for some of you, but it's also called convergent evolution. So that's a part of our history, divergent and convergent evolution. Divergent is when we break into pieces, and convergent is when we become unified, and both have happened in history. So it seems like we are going towards this convergent global evolution socially, social evolution. Okay. The conclusion can be similar in length to body paragraphs, especially when the body paragraphs are relatively short. Okay. Rajveer says, I believe that such organization is beneficial for humanity to ensure harmony and prosperity of every nation. Yeah, very good. Or of every citizen. Yeah, nice. Okay. All right, so now hopefully I would have at least 3-4 minutes left to read over what I've written. If I don't, then I should write a little bit less. Okay. So it's really from my own experience I learned this, because in my official IELTS exam I ran out of time, and I suffered losing some marks because I didn't check my essay for mistakes. And when you're typing fast, everybody makes mistakes, or most people make mistakes, including myself. So you want to check for mistakes, because that will save you points, especially if you're at the higher band score. Okay. Chandradeep, you're very, very welcome. Thank you for being here and hanging out. Everyone, check out aehelp.com for academic IELTS, gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. Install our apps, Academic IELTS Help, General IELTS Help. Lots of videos in our apps, and lots of help there for you. So I will be here tomorrow. Members, I'm going to do a grammar lesson tomorrow for you. And then at this same time, we'll do speaking part 3 practice tomorrow. So also for everybody that's watching, we have a poll on our YouTube community board. And that's asking about the times of the class. So please check out the poll, make a vote. There are a couple of options. Right now we have this time, but in the future I'm planning to maybe change the time of the class. So please check out the poll on the YouTube community posts, and then make your vote, and that will help me to best decide when to have these live classes. If none of the choices make sense, write me an email, okay, about what you think is a better time and why. All right. Okay, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your day. Hopefully a fantastic remainder of your weekend. Do something relaxing, recharge your batteries. I'm Adrian. I'm signing out from Victoria, British Columbia, West Coast, Canada. For now, much love to all of you. Bye.